I keep thinking about when we were kids and how they used to make us practice hiding under our desks in case of an atomic bomb.
Yeah, duck and cover.
All right, folks. Remember those straws that you bought not too long ago? Those ones that you're supposed to be able to drink water from anything? Why don't you go pull those out and go try drinking water out of the river or even out of a puddle? Let's see how they taste. You let us know. Welcome back to the Duck and Cover Movie Podcast. My name is Jeremy, and with me again this week is Jason and Bonnie. How are you both?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, doing great. Looking forward to this one. So we are doing Jericho Season 1, Episode 4. This is The Walls of Jericho. This was released on October 11th, 2006. And the message that actually comes across in the Morse code, see, this is where they start getting a little more interesting. This one is, he knows Rob.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun.
So, and again, the rest of them as the show goes on, at least they, like I said before, at least it's not like episode 3, episode 6.
Yeah.
They thought about what they wanted to do with regards to putting something together and what's funny is more than likely probably 9 out of 10 people had no idea what the Morse code was anyway.
Right.
I watched this whole series a few years ago and had no idea that the Morse code was. I didn't even recognize it was Morse code, to be totally honest. So
it's like something's wrong with the TV.
yeah, I was like, oh, that's an interesting noise it makes.
But yeah, I honestly I think I remember looking it up later, and there were there were websites back at that point where people had actually figured out what it all said, but I don't even think I remembered till a few years ago the fact that there was actually a message that actually has to do about the show. And I don't know, because I think it's interesting because a lot of other shows that you watch, they don't I don't think they ever really would go into anything sort of
Mm-mm.
very specific. And it doesn't necessarily mean they want to give away the title or something, but it's just the fact that they're adding something just a little bit extra.
It's like an
And
Easter egg. It makes me
yeah,
think of Easter eggs, like
and
for the real fans,
right,
like something that only like people who, it's kind of what that if you know, sort
right.
of thing.
Yeah, and again, you figure most people aren't going to know Morse code anyway, so when they figure it out, it's like very cool.
Yeah, it's like people that are into ham radio,
Right.
Yeah.
and
So
there
I
is
feel
a
like
lot.
it's a nod to the community,
Right.
versus just like us random viewers.
Right. It would be interesting if there was ever a way of, like finding people who used to watch the show who actually were able to who actually sat there and was like, okay, I'm gonna write this down. Okay.
Mhm.
H
Yes,
E
I heard
K
somebody on a podcast refer to that as appointment TV
oh,
versus streaming. Yeah, they were like, that was back when, it was appointment TV, like where you only, it came on at a certain time, and if you caught it, you caught it. If you didn't, you didn't. And it's like crazy because our kids don't even know what that's about. They have
right.
no idea what it was like to like get stuck in traffic and miss your favorite show, and you were
Right.
just out of luck.
Well, and
So
if you were smart enough, because and not to be mean to a lot of parents back then, but a lot of parents would have a VCR, and
yes,
the only way that they would know to record is obviously they stick the cassette in and walk up and hit record. But that, a lot of times you go, like over to somebody's house, and of course you'd see the clock blinking away.
Yes.
So you couldn't program it because, well, they
The
didn't program
clock
it because they
wasn't
didn't know how to
right.
do it.
Yeah, because they didn't know how to
So,
even set the clock.
right.
Although that's what our oven looks like. Our oven is always blinking, but that's just
Just
because
blinking away.
we have a superstition in our house because every time we set the clock, the power seems to go out.
Right.
So we just stopped resetting it because then the power doesn't go off out as often.
Right. And here we are, we're recording on March 9, and tonight is daylight savings. So if you
Oof,
were to
it's
go and set the
weird.
clock today, what's going to end up happening is you're going to wake up tomorrow and, oh, I got to adjust it anyway. So,
Yes, we're gonna have some cranky kiddos tomorrow.
yeah, I'm sure. All
But yeah,
right.
that's
So,
usually what I do when I get into Jason's car. If I drive his car for some reason, I usually get in and have to reset his clock because
oh,
he
yeah.
doesn't change it for daylight savings, so that drives me crazy. So
That's
I
going to
Yeah.
be
do
right
what
in
I
about 6 months.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. So just leave it and who cares?
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, let's get into episode 4 of the Walls of Jericho. So,
Yeah.
Bonnie, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So it starts out, we see a black screen with a title that says 4 days after the bomb and 1 day after the fallout has cleared. So then we see TV images of people running and fires, and this is in the bar, and there's discussions of where it might be. So there's speculation that it might be Cincinnati, and the images are just looping. So it's not, a complete broadcast. It's just these same clips, and then it starts over. So
Well, I guess they're trying to
uh,
say that the fallout cleared in a day. Is that right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I guess so. So now that now there's the cities are dealing with I'm assuming the cities are dealing with like looting and completely some chaos in the
Right.
Yeah.
cities.
I don't know how long it would take to clear. Like it would probably take a longer than a day.
Well,
I would think so too. I think it had to in Jericho, I would assume it was the rain. Like the
Mhm.
rain pulled it down out of the atmosphere, and because I know we live in a high allergy, a high pollen area, and that's kind of how it is here. Like the pollen gets really bad, and everybody's allergies are really bad, and then we get a good rain and it pulls it all out of the air and it gets a little bit better. So but you wouldn't have a bad brainstorm all over the entire area.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the
and
entire
what's
nation. So
funny is so this is the movie we're getting ready to do here pretty soon. Dr. Strangelove, and actually there's at one point they actually say something about 2 weeks.
oh,
To the
interesting.
point. And I think that's kind of similar to what they said in The Day After. So, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I have no idea, but that's now twice that I've heard, 2 weeks. So,
Yeah, I think it depends too because I think the argument on the other side of that is that there was only one bomb.
right,
So
Mhm.
most of the time that they've done fallout studies, or theoretical fallout studies, where they're showing like how the wind moves
hmm,
across the country, they're assuming that there's like 200 hydrogen bombs that go off in the
Oh,
in
interesting.
the
Yeah.
Northwest because of the ICBMs. So that's where
right,
most of the targets are. So
Mhm.
everything would move eastward. So
right,
Right.
then that would be months to years.
hmm,
Uh,
Yeah, that's true. Well, and this is 4 days after the bomb. One
yeah,
day after the fallout has cleared. So that's like what, 3 days before, so I guess it took 4 days
right.
well,
or
yeah.
3 days to
Plus,
clear.
because you figure, the episode or the show started with the bomb going off. The next day, the rain came, so I guess they're just that's just kind of what they're going. So yeah, I think they're saying that 4 days after the bomb. So I guess they're on what, day 5 then. So,
Yeah, that's
or
kind of what
something close to that.
thinking. But yeah,
Because
so we see
otherwise the show is just going to end up sitting like people will be like, can we go? Can we move
yeah,
along?
that's true. That is true. Um, yeah, definitely. It would get pretty. It would start to drag. So we see Jake, and he's mentioning to others that Shep and Gray should have been back by now, and that they can't get them on the radios. He says the radios go out after about 50 miles, so they've got to be at least 50 miles out, or have at least gotten 50 miles out.
Or the radios are dead.
Or the radios are dead, or they got killed on the way or before they got there. So, but mentions that 50 miles. So, Stanley comments about the person who is shooting the footage that they're seeing on the TV. And then Hawkins speculates that it's probably the last thing they ever saw. So, now that I'm thinking about this again, I'm not sure because when I watched it originally, I thought it was video footage of the bomb. And but now I'm thinking, like, if this is about the mayhem, then it probably is still the same, probably is still the last thing that they ever saw, if that's what, if there's mayhem and chaos in the cities. So the power starts to flicker, and the bar owner says that the generator's running out of gas. The brother, being the chivalrous boyfriend, says that he'll take care of it and not to worry. So he steps up and tells everybody to leave, because they're starting to get, it's starting to become kind of contentious, with everybody wanting to be in the bar. And so then the teacher and Jake are Jill on the spot, and our Jake on the spot run into each other on the street, and says that the same images were still playing on the TV before the power went out. Jake offers to walk her home, because things are starting to get, people are really starting, we've definitely moved from that, like, kumbaya cookout that we had in the end of the last, and things are starting to get really anxious. So he offers to walk her home, and then she asks if he feels weird being home after so long. So we're still kind of alluding back to that mystery of where he's been. He makes it. Oh, do they?
Well,
yes.
right?
They hear a no. So they continue to kind of joke about how the town has changed. He makes a joke about the mechanical bull, and the bar's just not quite the same without the mechanical bull. And but then, yes, they talk about, the changes that the town has seen since he's left. And then they hear a noise in the alley. So as they go to investigate, they see a broken window in the pharmacy. And Jake sends the teacher for help, being the ever chivalrous gentleman that he is, and he goes in through the broken window to investigate. So someone comes crashing through the shelves, and a flashlight sweeps to reveal someone with radiation burns, whispering help.
So why do we know why he was in the pharmacy? Like, what, I mean, was he looking for, like, painkillers?
That's what I would assume.
Something like
yeah, I think he kind of, I think he alludes to that later. I forget. I think what it was probably the assumption was, as the show goes on, we find out that obviously there's more like him. So he's probably just out trying to find something for the pain, something for, anything. And
Right.
the fact that he has found, a town, it's like, okay, I'm going to take. So,
And he goes right to he just goes right to the pharmacy and busts in.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, yeah, that's kind of odd because I would have, if I had found a town like that, I probably would have looked, for a clinic or a doctor or
Yeah.
a hospital
An
or
open
something. But
hospital.
yeah, but I mean, if you've been to places where there was no, there was no functioning
Right.
community,
Yeah.
then then the pharmacy would be the first place that I would go,
Right.
Yeah.
just looking for some sort of some sort of medication.
But
But
he did drive in, right? Didn't
Yep.
he have Gray's truck
No, Shep.
or Step's truck?
Yeah.
Okay. But I guess he like crashed on the outskirts or something.
No,
I
actually, it
guess
was like,
I don't know.
it was,
We must find that out in a later episode because
yeah.
he
Well, no, actually, they found,
or do
they
they?
actually, they find it later. And then this is how they find out what the guy's name is, because
He left
his ID, his wallet is left in the vehicle. And it's somewhere within the city limits.
Okay,
He
so he
didn't
got
want the
close,
wallet on him when he broke in. So he
Right.
left it in the stolen truck.
Right.
which is interesting because that I mean that does tell me that he wasn't just actually looking for help.
Right.
Because if you're actually looking for help, you're going to talk to people. You're not going to just break into the pharmacy, So, but that is when we hear the Morse code that says he knows Rob,
Yep.
which is interesting because we've heard him referred to as, we, I was told that that's Mr. Hawkins, that's Robert Hawkins.
Right.
So,
But
But
the
that's
wife
when he
does
hit the-
call him Rob, though.
right, yeah, that's true.
Oh,
That's true.
And she's,
that's when when the Morse code happens. Because that's like the beginning before
yeah,
the intro.
right.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the deputies, Stanley, Bonnie, and the teacher come in to help. Jake, the man is down on the ground, but the deputies say they don't want to touch him and argue over what to do with him. Because these are, like jam up deputies here. Like they've done nothing but been scared and refused to do stuff. So
Oh, they were in
They're
their
brave,
underwear.
brave to a point.
not necessarily the cream of the crop of law enforcement. So we switch over to the clinic where the doctor's confronting um the brother about the brother being gone for Jake's brother being gone for so long. He lies and says he just stopped by the bar to see the TV, to check the TV, and she says that took 3 hours.
Right.
So I'm assuming that we're referring back to the scene in the bedroom from earlier in the evening.
Right.
So she scolds him for having a beer while she's working so hard. And there's a flurry of activity over someone not being able to breathe and her having, a distraction, having to go take care of that. So then we switch over to Gracie's grocery store, where she enters the store and is asking if there's someone there. Remind me of the boy's name, the nerdy kid.
Can't think of it.
Oh wow, I'm slipping on this name. Go ahead. Well, I'll remember it here in just
Anyway,
a second.
so he turns on a flashlight and reveals Dale. Thank
Yeah.
you, Dale, and reveals the shipment that apparently he has hauled back from the train
On
5
his back.
miles away on his back, or who
His bike.
knows, like
on his
on his
bicycle.
bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
somehow restocked the entire store on his own. I thought this was interesting because Gracie says that she can't take all this because it's not all hers. So it's kind of it shows like she has a very rigid personality, and she seems very to have, kind of that rigidity, but the rigidity goes in that direction too. Not only do people need
Right.
to pay for what they're taking from her, but hey, this isn't mine either.
Mhm.
So I found that to be an interesting about her personality, just in general.
Yeah.
That she, she has she's very strict and rigid about her moral code, and that applies to her as well.
Yeah.
So, of course, Dale encourages her to take it because who else is going to use it?
Right.
Right.
So
Well,
then,
it's funny when the story goes on too with the store, because it sort of becomes like everything is there. Like somehow she has, you know, what, like 500 gallons of industrial pesticide sitting on the shelves too.
right,
Yeah,
That
she
comes
just
up
happens to
later,
have that.
right?
right, yeah,
Yeah, her
Um,
store ends up becoming like a trading post,
right.
as time goes on, because everybody realizes that, well, money's not going to do me any good. So,
right, yeah,
so it ends up becoming a trading post.
right. So then we see the mom, the mayor, Jake, his brother Stanley, and the doc all standing around the man that they found in the pharmacy, and he's not doing well. So Jake's mom asks him and Stanley to wash up after touching his clothes. Um, the Jake's brother talks to his dad, the mayor, about the gas running out of the generators at the clinic and the bar.
Hmm.
So uh, the mayor recommends having folks siphon gas from their cars, and Jake's brother expresses concern about more people coming in since no one recognizes the burn guy. So they're trying to figure out, like, are there more people going to be headed that way? So um they debate whether they should be turning people away due to limited resources.
Well, doesn't he say before he passes out that more are coming?
I think at this point,
If he did, I didn't note it in my notes,
Yeah,
but that's
I think he
possible.
said just something like they're coming. I mean, he
they're
just
coming.
makes it's very
Hmm.
quick, because
Oh no,
they're trying
that's
to.
that is later on. He does
Is it
say that
okay?
later on.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have it. um So, Jake's mom is offering to help the doctor, because she's being pulled in multiple directions. So there's also this baby in a NICU, and the and the doc asks the mom to watch the baby in the incubator, and they have a moment of um what how you can tell the doctor is really carrying the weight of the world on her
Yeah.
her shoulders. um and the mom reassures her that they'll do everything they can until they can't do anymore, which I thought
Right.
was that's just such a mom thing to say, like that. I can see myself being the one to say that, as a mom and as a
Hmm.
social worker. Like, we're not going to give up. Like,
Right.
Right.
we're gonna do what we can until we can't do anymore, and we're just gonna focus on that for right now. So I it's so funny. I'm at the point now where I identify with the mother or the grandmother characters instead of with the main characters. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now. So
Right.
but yeah, being there to support her daughter-in-law, and this woman in her life. And I did think that was a real touching moment
Yeah.
between those women. So then we flip to Hawkins, who's in his mystery basement again, with his laptop in a heavy duty case, which we actually went online and tried to figure out what the official title of that, like a
Ruggedized, right?
uh what did you say, Jason?
Ruggedized. Isn't that what they call it?
Oh yeah,
A
right.
ruggedized case. Yeah. So it's like it made me think of the ones that I've seen either in military uh movies or that sometimes I've seen out on job sites,
Right.
Yeah.
like construction sites. So a real a real rugged can take a beating case, which
Mhm.
is odd for most people. Most
Right.
people do not have their laptops and that kind of thing. So it opens to show some very uninteresting folders with titles like Jericho Family and the different kids' school information. So at first glance, it looks very uninteresting.
Right.
But there's, once you start thinking about like, oh wait, Jericho Family, like, is this as opposed to which family, what family, what, so, and then then we flip back to where the deputies are talking to the mayor, and there's really concern around the defense of the town.
Mhm.
So, then we flip to Jake in the shower. That's why the scene with the mother telling him that they needed to wash off after touching his clothes. That's a very important because now we need to see Jake in a towel. And have the
Sure,
teacher walk in.
Yeah.
Uh, she seems surprised and caught off guard, which why you would walk into the shower area or the bathroom area with shower and then be surprised somebody's in the shower. Like I don't know. Anyway, but we do need to see Jake without a shirt on.
Right.
So one of the things that I noticed though was that he was wearing dog tags.
right.
So that we don't know more about that. What are they about? But I do, I mean, most of the people that I know, even who have been in the military, they don't still wear the dog towels. so maybe it's a clue, maybe it's not. But so the teacher is talking about finding funnels to siphon gas from the cars, and presents the idea to get gas out of the tanks at the gas station. And
Right.
Jake suggests a water pump. So, man, these are the two I want on my apocalypse team
I know.
because
They just come up.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, you know what's funny is the character of Heather. She is not. She's not in every episode, and once she actually ends up leaving town, which is much later on in the season, she's going to be gone for several episodes. But I mean, I think they do a pretty good job, at least, of trying to flesh out her character a little bit.
yeah.
And I mean, just this idea of, oh, Jake and a towel, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And but she's still like, I must still communicate with what
Right.
but
Yeah.
I
Well, and I do find it interesting from like a kind of a female perspective, the juxtaposition between Emily, who's like the classic beauty and the blonde hair and the damsel in distress, and then you have Heather, who is not the classic beauty, but is seen as portrayed as more of an equal
right.
to Jake. So I think that I feel like I could write a paper on the portrayal of those two women in society and
Like,
how we see women and stuff.
Daphne and Thelma.
Yes.
you know.
Yes, definitely. So let's see. So Jake is talking to Bonnie, who's worried about her brother. She's concerned that the gentleman that they've seen from out of town, that's the fate of her brother.
Mhm.
So and she tells Jake to take care of Stanley. So so then there's a discussion over the use of the ventilator either for the gentleman from out of town or for the baby in the incubator. They're running out of gas in the generator. They're running out of supplies and resources, and they're basically having triage. So who has better chance of survival, and what's the better
Right.
use of that resource? So Jake says that he'll do something by morning to get more gas, and this is where the burn guy starts saying they're coming.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So so then we see Jake's mom sitting with the gentleman from out of town, and the deputies are asking the mayor about what the guy said. So there's discussion around that.
Mhm.
The mayor says to hire as many deputies as possible. And Jake and Heather argue with the gas station attendant about taking the gas. And which I think is hilarious. You can see that people are still processing what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
He's concerned about the general manager, the higher ups, the corporate people being upset that he has, because you can tell that he's not an owner operator. Like, this isn't, he works at the gas station. This isn't his.
Right.
He doesn't feel like, as opposed to Gracie, who feels like this, this is her inventory to do with as she please. And Jake reminds the worker or the worker says, I guess they're never coming back.
Right.
So, I find it interesting, kind of from a sociological perspective, like watching how different characters deal with and how they're processing
Mm-hmm.
what's happened, and how the world has changed, and how folks seem to be, there's still folks that are kind of holding on to maybe the world is not, maybe this isn't the end of the world.
Yeah. So were the gas
So
not working?
What's that?
the gas pumps,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't
well,
know.
if the power's out, because I think the power's out in most of the town. I think
Is
the
it?
only places
Oh,
that
okay.
that have anything right now is the clinic, because it's got a generator, and
And the bar, because it's
because
got
the
a
bar
generator.
has a small
That's
generator.
right.
Probably
power is
probably
gone.
the gas station doesn't.
Right. Yeah. Because I was gonna say, why
Yeah.
not just use the gas pump?
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's probably true. That it's
Yeah.
um
Or like any
so
trucks that I'm sure there was. I don't know. I just think there was some way of probably being able to get that gas that
was a
didn't
little bit
require
easier.
a big giant stainless steel thing from a barn.
Yeah.
That but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But could I come up with a better idea under those circumstances? I don't know if I could.
Like,
So
probably not.
yeah, I feel like, yeah, definitely armchair critic over here,
Right.
criticizing how people deal with the end of the world. But you know, we went through the pandemic, and I didn't realize that the end of the world was still going to involve Starbucks drive-through being open. So, I'm not exactly sure I can critique
Mhm.
their how they deal with it. But so then we switch over to Hawkins' family, and his wife is quizzing the kids on the story, which really starts to reveal like more of what is happening over there. So the kids are having trouble with some of the details. The teenage daughter is giving teenage daughter attitude about the story being fake, and how dad was never around. So she's, pointing out that the story of him being an involved dad, like that's the piece of the detail that they're working on, and she's pushing back on the fact that not only is the story fake, but that's fake because he's not been around.
Right.
So then she storms out, and there's a knock at the door. So Hawkins sends everyone upstairs and answers the doors to find the deputies, and they try to recruit him, who he hesitates at first, but then he agrees. So it's been kind of funny because he's been injecting himself into all of this, and then when they come to ask him if he wants to, he's like, I don't
Okay.
know.
Got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
And he didn't put up
like,
much of an argument either.
yeah,
No.
no, that's true. So, so then we see Jake's brother who's asking Gracie to donate gas, and she says she's already donated groceries. So she's such a funny character. Like, I like her, but she's such a funny character. So someone over the radio says that people are scared and they're hoarding, which is has taken on a new life now that we've been through the pandemic and seen how that plays out in real life. So I can't even imagine. So, and we go back to the gas station where Stanley shows up with a fertilizer container, and the teacher announces that the steel is too dangerous due to the static electricity risk. So the boys argue over who's going to do the dangerous work and fill it up. So
Get off the truck, Stanley. Get off.
So then we flip back over to Gracie's store where this is Skylar.
Mhm.
The Skylar's arguing with Hawkins' daughter over a bag of chips. And she invites Stanley's daughter to a party that she's throwing because that's what kids do during the end of the world. So, and then we see that Jake's mom is still sitting with the gentleman who's come from out of town.
Yeah, it's funny. Like Gracie, the character, like she's pretty much the same character as in like Donnie Darko. When she was the teacher in Donnie Darko, she like plays that same sort of typecast. Kind of tightly wound, anal.
Oh yeah.
Sort of. Just the type of person you just want to smack sometimes.
Yeah, just so rigid.
Yeah.
So then we go back and we see Stanley and Heather and Jake driving the truck full of gas. Or no, they're putting gas into the truck and the power begins to flicker. So at the clinic. So we're seeing we're ramping up the impending and the direness of what they're doing. So the doc goes to the baby. Again, we're seeing this like her being pulled between two patients that need her. And she reminds Jake's mom that she used to be a nurse. So, and that she's, I think, I get the sense that she's not expecting her to like, provide care so much as like, hey, you know what you're doing. Like, you're okay. Like, I can leave you for a few minutes. You'll be okay. So I really do like the support that those two women give each other over this episode. So then we see the truck skidding into the clinic with the gas, but then they find out that the cap is stuck. The teacher says if they force it, the fumes can ignite. And so they're trying to figure out how to do that safely when Stanley just hits it with a crowbar. And thankfully nothing happens. So not the safest of ideas, but so then they start quickly filling the generator and the lights come back on. And the mom, we see the room of the gentleman who was out, and the mom says that he was down for 2 minutes.
Right.
So, but So then we go back to Skylar's house where she is throwing her party, and Hawkins' daughter is there, which cannot be good. So the Jake's brother comes running in after asking about the doctor. They're watching the monitors.
Well, actually, hold
And
on
his heart.
before you keep going. I'm sorry. I just did with that scene where they're at Skylar's house and the daughter walks up. Oh yeah, I invited you, didn't I? I was like, oh my gosh, that's another one of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just every time I see that.
Doesn't Dale show up there too? Was that then or later?
I think it's a little bit later.
Okay.
And then he's just kind of looked at like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I just had to point that out just because I remember that.
Yes, because he brings
so
food.
grand.
He brings like a delivery from the store.
Right.
And everybody's looking at him like he, like, what are you doing here? Delivery, like you're just a delivery boy, and go. So yeah, so but so they see the brother announces that they have 75 gallons of gas, and the doc dismisses him saying, "We've got it."
Right.
So I think she's catching on.
So he's going to take it to his mistress. So hey.
Yeah, exactly.
It still
so
works
it's fine. Yeah.
More points.
Right. Yeah.
She
actually appreciates him.
Right. Of course.
Yeah, because he takes it to Bailey's, the Peach Pit.
Yeah, he takes it to the bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peach Pit, like 90210.
The Peach Pit.
Oh, is it really the Peach Pit? Oh
No.
Okay, it wasn't 90210. The other show, the non-apocalyptic version of Jericho.
The non-apocalyptic.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious.
All
right.
Bailey's.
So this is when Dale shows up at the party with groceries. How he got word, how Skylar got word to him to bring, I don't know if he just took it upon himself to bring her, like, after restocking the store, if he just, took it upon himself to, now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if that's not what, happened, but I don't know. Anyway, he shows up because it's not like there's phones,
Yeah, I think he was just trying to score points.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And he used his freight bike, the one that he's moved an entire train car from the tracks 5 miles to the store. He could take a few groceries over to.
It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it cracks me up because like the hand, like having watched, those sorts of, working in food service and seeing the hand trucks that are needed to unload off the trucks into the building. Like it's hilarious. That's probably the least believable thing in the whole.
There was pallets wrapped.
Right. Yeah. So Skylar looks at him dismissively and tells him to just put the food on the table. Yep. And he confronts her about being a witch in front of her friends, and she tells him to go home. So then we see the guy from out of town, and he begins to cough, and he's waking up, and Jake calls for the doctor, and says he needs to ask the patient some questions. Right. So the patient says that they're from a lake with a boat dock, and that he says they have his daughter.
Right.
So
of course that gets you thinking, starting to maybe worry for this guy too. So
right, yeah, you're starting, like, your sympathies start to shift.
Right.
So then the deputies show up at Skylar's party. They shut it down. They send everyone home for because this is when we find out she's using her generator to run the party,
Right.
which, having teens, I can totally understand that. Like the lack of critical thinking skills is kind of it's astounding at times.
Yeah, it's the end of the world, but we're gonna have a party. So,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So Hawkins happens to be one of the deputies that's there, and he sees his daughter and he is not happy and sends her home. So then we hear a voice over the radio saying that they have found Shep's truck.
Right.
So we flip to the truck, which has busted out windows. The deputies show a wallet that's found in the truck that has the patient's ID, the gentleman from out of town. And they confirm that it's the guy in the hospital. They ask Hawkins if he knows the guy, and Hawkins denies, but says they should ask the patient what he did with their friend Shep.
Right. And this
So
is where we discover his name is. So his name is Victor Miller. He gives his first name earlier in the episode, but then this is where we find out not only his last name is Miller, but because the way that Hawkins responds, it's like he's like, "Oh crap! Like, what are you doing?" Kind of thing. You can just see in his mind,
yeah,
like, you are not supposed to be here, man. So,
yeah, that he knows more than he's saying.
right,
Which
So
is
yeah,
pretty much everything he says.
right, yeah,
and hence the idea of he knows Rob. But I mean, we'll
right,
discover that. We'll discover that in a little bit more. But I think that was enough to be able to just say, he knows more than what he's letting.
yeah, absolutely. So the deputies are talking to the doc about wanting to wake up the patient. This Victor Miller, the bar owner, and Emily are watching. We flip over to the bar where Emily and the bar owner are watching the TV. They speculate about the people in the video running in What If They Came Here. So then they start to talk about that.
Yeah.
The bar owner praises the brother for filling up the generator, which, like I said, she actually appreciates him and all the
Of
work that
course.
he does.
Right.
She assures him that everything's going to be okay. There's flirty banter back and forth, and then there's a voice on the radio about Shep's truck and says to meet at the clinic. So at the clinic, the deputies, Jake, his brother, and Hawkins debate over waking the patient up. Hawkins recommends waking him up since he'll die anyway and can save the town with the info he knows. And Hawkins says he wants to wake him up himself, but Jake
Right.
won't allow it. So the doc confronts them about waking up the patient, but they give him adrenaline anyway, and he wakes up. So Hawkins questions him. The patient says that the truck was abandoned on the side of the road. Says that they have to help him. Confirms again that his doctor is at Bass Lake. Hawkins insists that he needs more morphine, and Jake leaves the room. And Hawkins bends over the patient and says, "We said families only. That's
Right.
all you can take with you." He asks why the patient went back to Denver, and says he couldn't let them die. He says he couldn't let them die.
Yeah,
Right.
because
So you're getting this sense that, like, whatever plan Hawkins is involved in, this is not part of it. Like, this guy
Right.
is not following the
Yeah.
plan like Hawkins and his family are.
Because weren't
Right.
they later on? They, of course, they talk more about it. But were they all supposed to meet in Jericho? The whole team.
It seemed to be a rallying point because the big guy, I forget what they kind of refer to him like that. I forget what the guy's name was. It'll get brought up later, but yeah, that seemed to be a rallying point because that guy was in the area and everybody else was supposed to be showing up. I think they just wanted somewhere out in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
just so everybody else, drop off your load, take your family, get out, meet here, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
I think that was the idea.
Mm.
Yeah, and that
It
scene
just
too.
happens to be Jericho,
Well, yeah.
where we're
Well,
filming this show.
with that scene though, because I think that's where, like, we don't know. Well, I guess, yeah, because we don't actually know that Robert knows him yet, right?
Right. Yeah. True.
And then he, wakes wakes the guy up, and then he looks at him a certain way. Robert looks at
Right.
him a certain way. Jake looks at Robert, and Victor are looking at each other. So it's like we get the sense that all of them know something that nobody's saying. And then
Right.
finally, after he's trying to get Jake to leave, for
Hmm.
by getting morphine,
Right. Well, right.
and then finally,
Yeah, because we
um,
don't get the sense that Jake is in on this, that Jake
no,
knows
but
anything. Yeah.
I think Jake could tell from the look and how they were communicating that they knew each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why that's why he tried to he wanted to wake the patient up by himself.
Right.
And Jake circumvented that.
Hmm.
So yeah. So uh uh Hawkins asks or he says that Hawkins asks says they're now a man down, and the patient says there's a traitor.
Right.
So Hawkins asks if he knows who it is, and insists that he tells Hawkins who it was, and then the alarms start to blare,
Hmm.
and Jake runs in and to Hawkins saying he's gone. So I'm assuming he overdosed him
Mhm.
on
Well,
morphine,
yeah.
or he
Some of the information that I found, as I was getting ready to do this, says that he died of a heart attack, which I mean could very well be.
yeah, that's
Um,
true.
you know,
Because they woke him up with the adrenaline and everything.
right. So, and that was the information that I had found. I mean, that, at least that way, you're not seeing Hawkins, doing
As a
that kind of thing
murderer.
to him. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I have a I got the sense that the morphine that was the point of the morphine, though, that he was probably going to put him down if he needed
Mhm.
to.
that
But
could be. Yeah,
who knows? So, um, we see the doctor giving the men a very judgy look while he's covering the patient up with a sheet. And then we flip back to um, Gracie, who is comforting Dale and telling him that he's better than them.
you're better.
You're better than
Right,
that.
They're not our people,
Right.
or
right.
something along those lines.
They're not
Like
like
we're,
they're
we're
not like
different.
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have noted that they exchange niceties, but I really feel like Gracie is very supportive of
Yeah,
Dale and trying to help him and support him. Um
kind of like the son
so
she never had, kind of thing.
yeah, I agree. And it's
In
it's
some
so
respects.
interesting because we see her as such this rigid, know, kind of, we don't see her in a very positive light, but she
Right.
has this very caring, supportive relationship with Dale.
Yeah.
So then we see we're back to the Hawkins home, and the teen daughter's on the couch. Hawkins sits beside her and asks if she's scared because she thinks she did something wrong, or if she did something wrong. He says she put her family at risk by going to the party, and and it's very kind of sweet and nice, and then he comes right out and threatens her if she does anything like that again, and then
Right.
kisses her on the head and walks away. So, it's you know, it's an interesting little scene
Yeah.
because he seems like he's gonna do the, it's okay, we all make mistakes, but then it gets kind of dark.
Right.
So then we see Jake sees Emily at the bar, and he's asking for volunteers to help the people that are apparently at Bass Lake get to the clinic.
Right.
And he attempts to appeal to their humanity because they're not about that. So he has to kind of to do some um, some work to try to get people to volunteer. The bar owner offers gas,
Right.
and Emily offers to go, and then more people start to offer to go. So we see police cars rolling down the road. Uh, Folks start to get out of the stopped vehicles and walk into the woods, and then we see folks laid out on tarps in a camp, and we see someone picks up a baby doll that's
Right.
among the bodies. So um,
And I like the fact that with this scene, um, they actually you don't hear what's going on. You have the voiceover of the mayor, who's
yes,
talking with everybody at the same time, and he's once again he's being very mayoral. He's being very much the man of the town, the man who's going to do everything he can to protect all these people.
yes,
And he just has this kind of voice where it's like, the bombs could be going off right outside, but you listen to him like, okay, we're gonna be all right.
He's a
yeah,
real leader. Yeah.
He
yeah. He
is.
really
Yeah.
does. He really does have leadership qualities,
Yeah.
as opposed, and I think that's a juxtaposition of Gray, who is, stirring up fear and division,
Yeah.
whereas the mayor is trying to bring comfort and unity. So that is, like you said, we're seeing him um in a candlelit church, and he's
Hmm.
basically delivering a eulogy for the people who died. And he's asking people at the church to stand if they lost someone or know someone who's missing. He talks about how every life matters, and that we have to fight for every life, even when it's hopeless and we're afraid, and that there's a battle ahead, and it isn't just for their survival, but for the survival of humanity.
Right.
So it's quite a speech.
Mm-hmm.
So then we see people filing out of the church. Emily kisses Jake and tells him he's a good man. So then we see Hawkins sipping coffee in his mystery basement, and
Hmm.
he opens up his tactical laptop. So he types in, we see him type in, "We have a traitor, period. The rally point is no longer secure."
Yeah.
So then he disconnects a thumb drive, and he finds his son drawing in the basement, and he quizzes his son on the story details.
Right.
He asks, I thought this was hilarious. He asks who loves him, and and the son says, "Dad." And then he says, "Who's always going to take care of you?" And the
Mom.
son says, "Mommy."
Mommy. And it's funny because you know how a lot of times in books, when when you're reading about, when it says something like this character had several emotions that just went across the face.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
that that really came to me in right there, just in that brief second. He's like, you get okay,
Yeah,
it's like he's
Yeah.
mad, but then
like
he
you
also
wanted to
understands.
argue with them, and yeah,
Right.
and you couldn't.
Yeah, he's just
Yeah.
yeah
And then I
he
think he also like I get the sense that he also recognizes why that is,
right,
and the daughter mentioned earlier him not being around. So,
right.
yeah, there's a flash of hurt feelings, and then
Hmm.
I feel like he gets, he understands that these might be the consequences of his choices.
Right. And
So,
it's just always when he has that smile of
Mhm.
you know?
yeah. Yeah, like he might want to think of himself as a better father than or
Right.
a different father than he
Right.
is,
Right.
you know,
Well, I think
because
the survival is the main thing.
right, right,
Like, doing everything
exactly.
to make I did everything I could to make sure he survived. Well,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
'cause I'm a part of the family, so
And so, for a kid that age, he doesn't know any better.
Right,
The
yeah.
only person who's really been around him is mom. So mom has been there, for probably, all of the issues and, things growing up and stuff like that. So then, yeah, so the dad is just like, well, dude, I'm doing everything I can to protect you. Who loves you? Who loves you, mommy?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But man, your kid there nobody can cut you like your kids can.
right,
So, and if you want to know the truth, ask an elementary schooler
right.
because they are
right,
going to tell you the truth. So nobody is as honest as a 5-year-old.
right, exactly.
So,
And folks,
and
that wraps up episode 4.
yes, it
And
does.
so we will continue to sojourn on throughout through this show. So again, so some things that are coming up. I finally got my thing of DVDs that I ordered, which come to find out that Jason already had, so I felt stupid, but whatever. Um, so yeah, so like I said, we'll be doing Doctor Strange Love at some point. We will be doing the Tom Cruise version of War of the Worlds. I suppose we could go back to the previous one, to the original one, but this one's more interesting. Um, what do you think? Should we do
Plus, we could
Mad
talk about
Max
how
or
credit Scientology is if we start
right?
at that
Yeah.
one, and then get Scientology all on our tails.
Right.
Should we do? So I know we want to do Road Warrior. Should we do Mad Max as well, just for to set it up, or just jump in Road Warrior?
You
What do you
mean the
think?
original ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like actually
Oh,
going with because like I said, I got this one. I just watched Mad Max the other day, and it I mean it gives you the background of the what happens to the family, but other than that, it's um the holo, the um all the fun interesting stuff all happens, starts out in this one. The apocalypse stuff starts in this
mhm.
one. And then 2012 Zombieland. So also a couple things that are going to be coming up. Um, so Amazon is actually going to be coming out with Fallout, which is based on a game series that Jason and I have played for several years. And so that's actually going to be coming out on the 11th of April. So the hope is that within that week we will have blasted through all the episodes, because Amazon is releasing all of them at once. So we hopefully will be doing that fairly soon after it comes out. And then what's the name of the other movie? Is it just Civil
Civil War.
War?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is also a movie that's going to be coming out in the theaters called Civil War. So hopefully we will be able to get to that when it opens, or fairly close to after opening, and watch that and give our review on that as well. And then we also have, a slew of other movies that we have discussed that we're planning on going over as well. So a
There's
lot of
there's
content
there's
coming forward.
yeah, there's really not a lack of
Of content,
apocalyptic
you know.
dystopian content to review.
Yeah. I mean, I actually just saw a movie on YouTube the other day. I think it was 2149. I think it was a very okay. It was a very very simple story. But if you get a chance, check it out. But the way that they pull it off, it was definitely a movie that was done with not a very big budget. But I think the fact that they really thought it through and made it very simple. It I think it did well. I liked watching it, and so I think that would be a good one to do. And then also we want to do ELE. Um, that was the one that you had told me about not too long ago. So we
Okay.
definitely will want to review that. So I mean, yeah, we've got a ton of different stuff that we'll be able to do as time goes on.
Sounds good.
So any last thoughts on this episode?
Mhm. Thought it was a good one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, because this
Definitely
is
leaves you hanging.
where it
hanging.
finally discloses that, well, you still don't know who Hawkins is, but that they probably didn't just move here from Kansas City or wherever it was.
Right.
St.
Yeah.
Louis.
Louis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The
Wasn't
fact
just
Yeah.
that
It's probably not random that
right.
he's here.
so
Yeah. So you're starting to get the idea that there is something more behind Hawkins, and it's going to continue to. Same with Jake as well, and
right.
Jake on the spot is he's going to have his whole backstory will be coming out as well. So. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for hopefully you've watched this all the way through to the end. So again, tune in next time, and we'll be doing next episode of Jericho, and then I do not have the name, so we'll figure it out as we go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching, and hope to
Thanks.
see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.
Bye.